Hi guys, this is Mario with Florida Flex. One of the things that you guys are going to notice here with the unit is that you have these markings right here. This is going to basically help us line up that cutting mat right in between these arrows right here. So the first thing that we're going to notice here on our cutting mat is going to be basically it's like a grid basically that goes from 1 to 12, which is the area that this cutting mat allows you to cut, which is a 12 by 12 area. Now, we could purchase separately a 12 by 24 cutting mat in case we want to cut longer material. We also have a roll adapter with this unit, so once you access it, you can actually load a 12-inch roll of material right on here, and you can cut directly from the material. This is one of the features that the Cameo has that many other cutters don't have, and that is that you can cut directly onto your material. There's really no need to use your cutting mat. Now, the cutting mat is excellent especially when you're doing things that are small. If you have small material pieces that you want to cut, that's basically what this is great for, because you don't want to load the small piece of material on here directly. But if we have longer pieces of material, we can load them directly. There is no need. We will have to go back to the software, and Cameo needs to be told that you're not cutting with the cutting mat, that you're cutting directly onto the material, right? So we're going to cover why we do things one way or another in just a little bit. So I'm going to put away our roll adapter here, and we are going to cut something small because we're just getting started. So we want to test the machine first and make sure that it's cutting good before we start loading lots of things in here. So the first thing that I want you guys to observe is that the grid starts at 1 in the left-hand corner and it goes toward the 12 end. So what I'm going to do is basically locate that area and basically stick my material as best as possible right here. So now my material starts right here in this corner toward here and from here down. So I'm going to cut in this area right here. Now, I already know by the numbers here that this is a 10-inch by 7. So what does that mean? It means that whatever I'm going to cut has to fit in this area. Can't any bigger than that, right? So we're going to go ahead and load this for the first time onto our machine. So what I like to do is I like to use this line right here to basically align it to the material itself, right? So what we're going to basically do is move our roller and our guides into position. I could basically move it to a place where this can actually go here, or it could actually go here as well. It doesn't really matter. It doesn't matter that I'm cutting to here and the roller is here. What's important is that you want to make sure that the cutting mat has the guides on the material itself. You don't want the guide off the grid, because then the cutting mat's not going to get pulled in. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and move it back over here, and between this one here and this one here, I think we have a pretty good spot for the material to work. So I'm going to basically line it up against the two rollers just like that. Okay, and then I'm going to use the up arrow to push the material in. All right, so now these rollers can basically go in any place, because these you can move them after you've loaded. If for some reason you notice that you loaded the cutting mat crooked, right? There's a trick here that you can basically do, which is this little tab right here. I can loosen it and I could actually pivot the cutting mat a little bit so that now I have it as straight as it can be. It's important that it's straight as best as possible to make sure that you don't cut anything out of place. So now we're ready to go. What we want to do is go back to the software, and what we have here, we have to basically do it in the software so the machine knows that your piece of material is only this big. Okay, so let's switch back over here to our program, and then what we're going to do is we're going to go to the tab on the top that says design. Okay, now before we jump into everything, I want to just give you a general explanation of all these tools that are right here in this area. Okay, beginning with everything that is right here in a quick key access. You can also get it up here through these menus. Okay, so to begin, what we're gonna do is we're gonna come right over here to the right side. Right here we have all the tools that we need to do whatever functionality we need to do. We're gonna start by setting up the page, right? We just inserted the cutting mat with a piece of vinyl that happens to be 7 by 10, right? So what we're gonna do is we're gonna say, okay, our machine is the Cameo 4, it's selected, our feed type is our auto, okay? And then our cutting mat, is it on? Yes. What size? We have 12 by 12, 12 by 24, we have custom sizes. So 12 by 12 is our cutting mat, okay? And then what is our media, right? This is the vinyl that I placed on there. So that red vinyl that I loaded, that basically has a size. It may not match up to what I have here because it's not quite 8 by 11 and it's obviously not an A4 size. But what I could do though is I can go to custom and I could basically just put the width right here at 10 and we could do the other one at 7, which is the height. So this is more or less now what we have in the machine loaded, as you can see right here, okay? This is the piece of vinyl that we're going to be cutting into, and we need to put whatever information we can right in this area right here. Let's begin also by, before we start, looking at more things in this area right here. You can kind of customize the color of your mat if you want. You can customize your media color if you want, so that reminds you that you're cutting on red as opposed to on white. But I like red, I like white better because white gives us a plain background to work in, okay? So now that we've set up these particulars right here, okay, it's up to us to start putting things to cut. So I'm gonna go ahead and select a font first, and we're gonna do something. We're gonna put the word Florida, okay? And this is what we're gonna basically cut as a test today. And we could change the style of the font if we like. One of the things that you're gonna notice is that every font that you have in your computer, it's going to be accessed here. It's not that Cameo gives you these fonts. These are fonts that you already have in your Windows or your Mac machine. So all I want you to guys do is to keep in mind that if there is a particular font that you guys want, all you got to do is go find that font, load it onto your computer, and then Cameo will access it right from over here in this spot. So let's pick something that we could basically work with here. I'm gonna go ahead and pick something simple. There we go. Like that, yeah, like that. And this is going to be basically our test. If we select what we're going to cut, it gives us the ability to change it into something else. Okay, so let's go ahead and basically adjust the size that we want. If you notice right here in this section is where you're getting the size of what you're cutting, and as you stretch it, it proportionally makes it the size and the width that you need it to be. So we'll just keep it right about there. One of the things that sometimes we want to do is we want to maximize the material, so we want to make sure that we don't leave any areas unused. So one of the things here that we could do is we can go to replicate right here, and we could basically duplicate this image right here, and we could also do another one. And then if it doesn't fit, we could move over here to this little button right here, and there we go. And we could actually turn it on its side. So it gives us a lot of use for the space, and we could move them over here. Then we can go ahead and make another copy of that one. So what we want to do is we want to be able to use as much as we can of the space, so it's not a complete waste. There we go. Okay, so now that we filled up this area of 10 by 7 with this, now it's up to us to send it to cut. Okay, so if I go to send, I'm gonna basically see everything in red, which is the area that I'm gonna basically be cutting. All right, the first thing we need to do is select the material. So we're gonna go material, and what am I cutting today? As I mentioned before, all of these different materials are things you can cut with your Cameo. All right, so today we're cutting heat transfer. So heat transfer has a lot of different categories. So we have reflective material, printable vinyl, we have metallic, and we have glitters. So all of this part is important because if we select a material that isn't quite the correct one, the blade won't cut the material correctly. So let's select here, let's say smooth, which is what we have. One of the things that I want to show you guys for a moment is how you can identify what anything is. So let me switch back over here and show you right here different types of materials that we could encounter when we're cutting. So obviously we have a red material that we have loaded here. You know, materials, they vary. So for example, this one right here, it's a gold. It's not a metallic. It's sort of like a matte metallic, I guess you can say, right? And it's nice, smooth, it's soft. And that is precisely the setting that we want to select. Heat transfer smooth, okay? For things like these and the red that I have here. Now, if we look at a glitter material, you'll notice the shininess. And then if we're gonna do a metallic, it's not as thick as this one, but it's pretty thick too. So we wanna make sure that when it is a metallic, we select metallic, and when it's glitter as well. The blade needs to be adjusted by the machine to cut and go deep and able to cut correctly. Otherwise, you're not gonna get a good cut. A lot of people make the mistake of loading the glitter or loading the metallic and then not selecting the proper setting. And then what happens is that the material goes to waste. So one of the things that we're gonna do next is we're gonna basically go back to identifying which is the side that we wanna load the media onto your machine. All heat press vinyls have a glossy side, okay? Everything that's heat press has a glossy side. That glossy side is the side where the carrier is. We want to cut on the material itself. This is the material side right here. Now, if you're not sure which one is the side that you have to cut, you can simply take your weeding tool and look for a corner. And if you can punch it, you can cut into it, then that means that this is the vinyl, not this side over here, right? If you load this side over here, we're going to ruin the vinyl, all right? So every material needs an area to cut from, and that'll be the best way to spot it, okay? So now we have this one the way it should be, with the media showing on this side over here. This is the side that we're gonna cut. So what does that mean? It means that after the machine cuts, well, this has to basically be done in a mirror so that then later can be flipped over and pressed onto the shirt. So that means that our cut has to be done in mirror. Now, one of the things that you can do when you're working with the software is initially flip the unit in mirror. Now, if you do that, then you don't have to allow the machine to cut it in mirror for you. So it all depends on the kind of person you are. I prefer to mirror my image before I send it to cut. And I'll show you guys now what I mean by that. So let's go back to the software for a moment. And as you can see right here, the word Florida, you can read it. That means that it's not in a mirror format. Now, I could go back to design and I could highlight the entire area right here, okay? And I could flip the object in mirror, and I can come here and flip it horizontally. See, what I just did right now is flip in mirror so that the machine doesn't have to do it itself. So if that's the kind of person that you are, if you'd like to make sure that you're the one that is mirroring the software yourself, or allowing the machine to do it, then that's your prerogative. I prefer to basically mirror it myself. So if I need to make a change on anything, I could select it and I could delete it. Let's say that I want to just basically cut one piece. All right, I could basically bring this over here to this corner right here. Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to make it a little bit smaller, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a duplicate of this one, and I'm going to make it bigger. Okay, so I'm going to do is basically just push them up a little bit closer to each other so I don't waste any material as much as possible. Now, hang on to anything that is left after you cut, because all of these other small areas right here, we can load them onto the cutting mat and we could literally use them. So nothing really should go to waste. All right. So now that I've selected these two and I have them in mirror, I'm going to go to send over here. And then what I'm going to do is make sure that I have smooth. Like in this case, I'm running something smooth, which means that it's your plain vinyl. It could be your Easy Weed. It could be your Easy Weed Electric. It could be your Easy Weed Standard. It could be any of those standard heat transfer materials. Now notice right here how the blade setting is already adjusted to 2, okay? And how the force, it's on 4. Now, what I'd like to do is I'd like to set up a deeper cut here just to make sure that it goes in. So I could do metallic, and I'll show you how it jumped. So it went from a 2 to a 3, and notice how your pressure actually was increased to 33. So that means that the blade is gonna cut deeper. And that's kind of the idea. Select the material that you have and send it to cut. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna send it to cut right now. The machine is showing me that's ready to cut right here in green at the lower end. And then when I send it to cut, it's gonna say, do you want to send it mirrored or did you already mirror it? So I already mirrored it, as you can see. So I wanna send it as is. So I'm gonna click send as is, and the machine is gonna basically start cutting. And one of the things that you're gonna notice is too that the software also has a counter. It's actually telling you how long it's gonna take to cut these 2 words. And my counter is going at 50 seconds right now. So it's under a minute that it's gonna cut those 2 words, all right? Now, the machine can definitely go faster. Right now, the setting is at 5. Now, if the slower you cut, the better you cut, right? So don't start increasing the speed just because you wanna get the job done quicker. Sometimes the blade requires a slower speed in order to get around the details, all right? So if you're cutting things like glitter and metallic, and in this case, this matte metallic that we're running on the cutting, that particular material, the faster you cut, the less likely it is for the blade to get around the edges. So just make sure that you respect the suggested settings that the machine already has in presets. You can always tweak them because we could always increase that from a 3 to a 4 if we want to, but you gotta be careful because you can cut through the material, and that's something that you don't wanna do because then the material will be ruined. So as soon as she's done, she spits it out. The only option here that you have is basically to release the cutting mat. So we're gonna do that, all right? We're gonna bring it right over here. Now you could basically weed right on this, and it's good because it's sticky, but it's a bit of a pain because then your hands get stuck right here in this area. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna remove, I'm gonna take my scissors, and remember what I said before, the material that you don't cut is the material that you wanna save for later. So what I'm doing is I'm just basically saving this piece of vinyl for later, okay? And then I'm gonna come in here with my weeding tool, and I'm gonna basically just get to the corner and I'm gonna peel that, okay? So as I start to pull away the material, it's going to show you that only the stuff that you're weeding is what's coming out. Don't worry about leaving things in there because we're going to go back and we're going to basically remove these little guys ourselves one at a time. So we're going to do that. We're going to come here, okay, and there's another one right here, and we're going to go right over here, okay? So I can look on the back and I could see that everything has already been pulled away. And then obviously I'm not gonna press both of these together, so I'm gonna go ahead and separate the top one from the bottom. So this is one, and this is the other one right here. So we've basically have removed what we didn't need. So this is basically our waste, okay? And that's why it's important for us to cut that piece that we weren't using, this piece right here, right? So this piece right here, we don't wanna peel it off. We wanna be able to save it for a later time, and I'll show you guys how to make use of that later. So now we have the material the way it should. Remember, always look at the material through the clear because the clear is what's basically going to go onto the shirt, okay? And now we're going to move on to doing other things, so stay tuned. Okay guys, now that we've cut our transfer and it's ready for pressing, we're going to need a couple of things such as a heat press, right? Obviously, we're going to need a little measuring device to make sure that we place everything correctly and aligned, and we're going to need a Teflon. So these are the 3 things that we're going to need to start with, okay? So the first thing we're going to do is get our garment out. We're going to load it here. Now this little device right here gives us the ability to line up our transfer without having to worry if we've lined up the garment straight or not, okay? So first thing we're gonna do is bring our transfer right here, okay? And this allows us to basically place it in the middle. So we're gonna, if you notice, basically just the beginning and the end in the middle, and we're using this as our straight line. Press with this, and we take this out. Now before I press, what I wanna do is I wanna mention to you guys that most vinyl, right, they require a particular temperature and time. So inform yourself first of what it is that you're pressing. Some materials you press them at 310, other ones at 315, other ones a little hotter, other ones a little under. So the most important thing is to know what it is that you're pressing and therefore achieving the target temp, okay? Your time is typically 10 seconds to 15 seconds, usually. I'm gonna go ahead and set up my machine to 310 and 10 seconds, because that's really all I need. Now, as soon as we lift off the heat press, then what we're gonna need to do is wait for the vinyl to cool down. Some vinyls are a hot peel, other vinyls are a cold peel. Now, that's very important because a lot of people, when they pull the carrier and they do it while the material is safe and they see that it didn't stick, they think that there's something wrong with the vinyl. So what's important is to understand when a vinyl is a cold peel, must be peeled in cold, and when it's hot, then you can do it cold or hot, but only hot peel vinyls can be peeled when the material is hot. So we're gonna basically just wait until it cools down before we peel it. Okay, so what we're gonna do here after positioning it, we're gonna bring our Teflon sheet. Okay, some people use parchment paper too, that's okay. We want something to protect the garment, and that's the reason why we put something up here. It could be parchment paper or it could be the Teflon sheet, okay? We already set our temperature at 310 and we're doing 10 seconds, okay? So pressure, time, and temperature is what we need. And some of these models that we're using obviously are more sophisticated than others, but any heat press would pretty much work to some degree. What you do have is you have the ability to have a digital timer, and obviously that the temperature, it's actually in sync with your display. And those are obviously the high-end models that you definitely want to work with. Like I said before about the peeling, we want to wait until it actually cools before we peel the backing. So wait a few seconds and there you go. You got yourself your little t-shirt ready to wear. Now, we could do a lot of things with vinyl, obviously. There are many different styles of vinyl that you could use. You could use glitter, you can use flock, there is print and cut transfers that you can also apply. All of these materials, you can layer them. You can also do the print and cut, and that's something that gives you full color ability. You can do all this with your Cameo. What I would do is encourage you guys to visit our website for more videos on how to basically layer, how to print and cut, which is important, all those steps to do. And always reach out to us and let us know if you have any questions about anything that you're trying to do that you're not having much luck with. All of this is a learning curve. I hope that all of the information in the video is helpful. Feel free to reach out and let us know if there's anything that we didn't cover, that it's something important, and we'll be happy to help you guys out. So thank you for watching.